Well, a major UN delivery of emergency relief supplies for Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh is underway. Now, their task is daunting. George Okoth-Obbo is the Assistant High Commissioner for Operations for the UN Refugee Agency. He joins us from Dhaka, Bangladesh. And sir, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. How much aid and what kind of aid have you delivered to the refugees today?
Okay. Allow me first of all to say that the principal aid that has already been provided to now, the figure here today is 379,000, but of course is that the Bangladeshi government, I also want to include the people in there, have provided access onto their territory, into their country, to this large number of people that have sought safety here, and they have received it. The response is underway. A lot has been done, but quite frankly, what I saw today is that we have to step up our response in virtually every sector across the basic needs of the refugees, from protection for sure, but everything else that you look at in food, in water, in healthcare, in shelter, we need to do much, much, much more. If I express that in financial terms, together the humanitarian actors have asked about 2 weeks ago for $77 million, but clearly that is going to rise as the numbers grow.
Yeah, the scale of this crisis is immense. Again, 370,000 Rohingya have fled Myanmar to Bangladesh to escape the violence since the end of August. That's an average of 20,000 refugees a day. The camps must be crowded in Bangladesh. What are the conditions like at the refugee camps there inside the country?
I think the word I would have to use is dire. There is really no way for it. In the particular two camps in which we work, the conditions are so visibly crowded. But what I really want to highlight in that is that even within there, the shelter, particularly the cover for people, is very rudimentary. And let us also highlight that there is an extremely high number of children in this movement. Women, of course, as well as men, but a very, very high number of children. And what you see, and what really we are all working so hard to try and change, is to get a little bit more stable conditions. You have mentioned congestion, but I stress that it is across the spectrum.
You say that the situation is dire. The shelter provided is rudimentary. Have you talked to the Rohingya refugees? What have they told you about what they need? And also, what happened to them?
Yes, I mean, the stories and accounts that we have heard about what happened are, I think I'll just use the one word that has been so topical. It's really heart-wrenching. And you see it. I talked to 3 people myself who have arrived on this side of the border with wounds on their body. We saw one refugee who is surviving the loss of both his legs from a landmine explosion. They vary a lot, but they're consistent with what your own network has been reporting. What they say to us above all, of course, is the stabilization of their conditions and the meeting of the basic needs. And quite frankly, they don't have to say that. It is so visible. That's why we're working so hard at it.
Well, we've heard of reports of injuries from landmines, as you mentioned, mortars, gunfire, the result of brutal acts of violence. We know that the UN Human Rights Chief says that the crackdown in Myanmar is, quote, a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. But, sir, has it become more than that? Is this genocide?
I won't speak to that because if you allow me to say that, that is clearly not the area in which I would pretend to be an expert. What is clear is that in the domain of refugee law, if we are talking of persecution, if we are talking of people who have been exposed to risk from different acts, again, that have been reported, however they are characterized, it is clear that these are people who have been forced to leave their country to seek safety, in this case in Bangladesh, for clear refugee-related reasons. These are refugees that indeed have the authority, as the authorities have themselves said here, at the very highest level of government.